Thank you, Cahill. I'll try and bring a bit of reality back to this debate after that kind of Alice in Wonderland speech that we're after getting. I'm a spokesman on agriculture, and I'm going to talk a bit at the start of this my speech about an industry that this government has forgotten, an industry that is driving force of rural Ireland. And in this budget, there was just token recognition of the crisis that's in agriculture out there. There was 20 million given to suckler cows. And if this government thinks that that's going to preserve our beef herd, they're sadly misinformed. We still don't know the small print and the hoops that farmers will have to jump through to qualify for this money. But it is a completely inadequate response to trying to preserve the beef herd. We've made a case, and farm organisations have made a case for low-cost loans. And even though what was promised in last year's budget still hasn't been delivered in this sphere, there has been no recognition whatsoever in budget of 2019 of the huge cash crisis there is out there on Irish farms. The Minister is totally reneging on his responsibility. There's huge merchant debt out there at the moment, after one of the worst winter and springs that we ever experienced, and a summer that farmers incurred huge costs in trying to keep their livestock fed. You have the pig sector, which is under dire strain, which is badly in need of a cash injection of low-cost finance. And for a minister to allow a budget to be published with no move whatsoever to address this issue is absolutely appalling. Farmers waited to see this budget, and they hoped that there would be a recognition of the crisis that they face. And unfortunately, when they read through it, they found it inexplicable that there was no low-cost loans made available to them. We've had great media coverage about an extra 23 million into the areas of natural constraint, and that is welcome, and it will be a help. It is money that goes directly into farmers' pockets. But when we talk about ANCs and and directing money into them, it is good. But we wouldn't want to forget that 25% of the country's farmland is outside areas of natural constraint. And those farmers, who in a lot of cases are the ones who are under huge financial pressure at the moment, aren't recognised at all in this budget. Another issue which all the farming organisations lobbed very heavily on was that this government in this budget should do something to try and address the issue of volatility. And in a year when cash flow is non-existent on farms, a lot of farmers are facing a significant tax bill in the next couple of weeks. And all the different farming organisations had made proposals on how to address this issue going forward. How you could put, deposit money in a good year and pay tax at corporation tax rate, and bring it out in a year like this when they would be under dire pressure for cash flow. Again, this was completely ignored by the Minister, and no recognition whatsoever of the problems that creates. It's extremely disappointing. It's very anti-family farm, and it's forcing farmers to go down the company route. And this, I grew up on a family farm, and I'm proud of the tradition and the contribution that family farms have made to this country. And for the Minister to consistently ignore the valid lobbying that was done to try and help farm families battle against volatility, again, is extremely hard to explain and understand, and is extremely disappointing. There was 5 million extra for Bord Bia given in the budget, and we have to recognise that in the last couple of years the funding for Bord Bia has increased substantially. But the tax that they face is changing enormously as well, and 5 million in the context of Brexit is just a drop in the ocean. Half of our beef finds its way into the UK market. And the Minister talks about alternative markets and live exports. And if he thinks 5 million to Borbia is going to achieve that, he's sadly mistaken. At the moment, we have very little live exports leaving the country, at a time when meat factories are exploiting the situation and paying us an awful lot less for our beef than what's available on the UK market. The only way to counteract that is with live exports, and a properly funded Borbia hopefully would be able to establish markets to allow those outlets to progress. So again, with Brexit and the huge storm clouds that are gathering and the huge damage that it can do to our agri-food industry, 5 million for Borbia is a very poor response. The Greyhound Fund and Horse Racing Ireland received an increase in funding in the budget, and that's welcome. 800,000 for the Greyhound Fund and 3.2 million for Horse Racing Ireland. I hope both Borden Lagan and Horse Racing Ireland will put that money into prize money, so that will find its way back and back down through the grassroots of the industry, and that is welcome funding. There's a proposal in the budget. There was a proposal in the budget to double betting tax from 1% to 2%. And in general, while I wouldn't be against this, unless there's an exemption for on-track bookmakers, we'll find that this realm of the industry will become extinct. On-track bookmakers, both in greyhound racing and horse racing, have dropped in numbers greatly in the last number of years. And an increase of 1% tax on their turnover will put most of these out of business. And track bookmakers are a hugely important fabric of the industry. They bring a glamour to it, and what they contribute is unique. And it would be a sad day if a government decision would force us into what would be a total monopoly. And I would hope that the finance bill might address this. The loss in revenue for the government would be small, and I think an exemption should be made for on-track bookmakers. I just want to make a couple of points on education and a couple of things that I was extremely disappointed in that weren't in the budget. Working principals and administrative days. There was a lot of lobbying done in the last couple of months by working principals to try and get 1 day per week for administrative duties. And I've met a lot of principals in the last couple of months, and in my own county, a significant number of principals have taken early retirement or resigned from their posts because of the workload that they have to carry. 10 million would have allowed working principals 1 administrative day per week. And they had a proposal where 5 schools could work a rota and a teacher would be rotated between 5 schools. To me, this was a very common sense proposal. And with autism units being established in a lot of schools, and the increased workload and the amount of staff that these principals have now to have to deal with. I just cite one example of a principal in a school near me, a 4-teacher school, but she has 22 staff under her authority. She spends every night working till 9, 10, 11 o'clock trying to get the paperwork done and keep the paperwork up to date. This situation is untenable going forward, and working principals, their issues have to be addressed, and I was very disappointed that this wasn't addressed in this year's budget. Deaf schools and funding for deaf schools, again, no extra funding in this budget. And again, and particularly we have urban schools in my county who failed last time round to get deaf status. We never got proper answers from the Minister for Education as to why they didn't qualify. But we were hoping that there would be extra funding and we might be able to reapply and get a fairer crack at the whip this time round. But again, that has been overlooked in the budget of 2019. Today in the AV room, I had a charitable group in who represent children suffering from severe autism. I suppose principally parents with children with non-verbal autism. And it's a serious indictment on our society that we have no funding in place to train specialist dogs for these children. The evidence is there to show that dogs trained specially to deal with these children have a hugely beneficial effect on the children, that they greatly improve, that the children with a dog for a companion lead far more vibrant and inclusive lives. We had 3 parents in there this evening, who outlined their own personal experience. 500,000 would train 20 dogs per year for this charitable organisation. They have 200 parents on the waiting list at the moment for dogs, but they've absolutely no state funding. And this is something I would hope might be addressed by the ministers with the extra funding that was there for children with special needs in the budget. Another issue on the health side, which I was disappointed that wasn't addressed in the budget, is the reversal of FEMPI for GPs. To keep GPs in rural Ireland is becoming more and more difficult, and the reversal of the FEMPI cuts is essential to make it more financially attractive for GPs to take up positions, especially in rural Ireland. Again, this wasn't addressed in this year's budget, and I would have grave disappointment that it wasn't. Now, I know there will be negotiations with the GPs on contracts going forward, but I would have thought that in the budget was the place to have this addressed. The previous speakers, have referred to housing and, the housing and what has been done in housing. Fianna Fáil have put their imprint on this budget as regards housing. Every day and every TD is the same. The amount of people we have coming into our clinics who just can't get access to either affordable housing or social housing. And the proposal in this budget, which was being put forward by Fianna Fáil as regards affordable housing, is a most welcome development. That we can build 6,000 affordable houses by 2021 for people is a start. I suppose that's all it is a start. It's just the first step on the road to trying to get affordable housing in this country. It's absolutely essential that people in what we call reasonable jobs are able to get access to affordable housing. This scheme needs to be expanded and greatly improved on, but at least it's a first step on the way, and it is welcome. The capital budget for social housing has been increased with an expansion of direct bill targets and a Rebuilding Ireland programme. The budget has gone, at our insistence, from 1.065 billion to 1.25 billion, with some 10,000 units due to be built, acquired or leased next year. This is a start, but the key is delivery. That's okay, Cahill.
Your 6 minutes will return to debate tomorrow.
Thank you.